the Know Your Gear podcast. Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast, episode 407. And I'm excited. I was going to make a joke about 407. I don't have one. I'm like, maybe at 409. We'll be like, 409, episode 409. Okay, so I hope everybody had a great week and is ready for some guitar talk and some fun to start the weekend. And before we get started, just a reminder, as you guys saw, this channel is sponsored by the Patreon members and the channel members. And I want to thank you for that. Plus, I want to thank the moderators and the people who show up live. If you show up live, there's no commercials. So it's just we don't turn on the commercials after the live show's over. And I want to thank you for coming live. It's really important to me. In fact, I got to say, it is very important to me. I've been thinking about it because of the fact that we've been analyzing. Again, we did this before. We turned off the ads during the live show. We analyzed it. We put them back because it was just, didn't make sense financially. Now we're taking them off again. And looking at the numbers, it doesn't make sense financially to keep them off. But we're going to do it. So that's what we're going to do. So thank you for joining me live and enjoying the no commercials. So let's get into a bunch of topics. We got a bunch of stuff going on. This was a good week for topics. Let's see. Chad wants to know what happened to the guitar Know Your Gear intro jingle. I think you're talking about the Guitar of the Week jingle. I still have it queued up. It's right here. It's in the buttons system. I just always didn't use it. That's how it is. Too many things to track. It's just too much to track when I do Guitar of the Week. It's like, shut off this mic, turn on that mic, set this up, and then there's meters I have to watch to make sure you guys are hearing what I'm hearing and vice versa. Let's see. Okay. Let's do this. We already talked about that. Some of you guys are asking questions, but it's kind of tough because we already talked about that. Let's do this one. This one came from Antique Rocker, who says, hey, we want to host a guitar restring and setup clinic in Northeastern New York. Do you have any suggestions, syllabus handouts, or lesson plans from your past clinics? Any help is greatly appreciated. I can only tell you that for a restring event, a clinic, you definitely want to be organized, very organized, for a ton of reasons. One, you're going to have a lot of people bringing their instruments into probably a music store, assuming that's where you're doing it. But if you're not doing the music store, it's not going to be as problematic. But we were doing it in music stores, so it was very problematic. We had to make sure instruments were tagged so that people weren't walking out with the store's instruments. Also, if you get backed up, it's really problems. It's a big problem. For me, it's a different thing for me. I don't know your particular situation. In my particular situation, the problem was some people drove 4 and 5 hours to come to the event. And then, we got backed up. And so they're waiting 3 or 4 hours and they're thinking about the fact they got a 3, 4, 5 or 4 or 5 hour drive home. So we at some point would prioritize distance. We would say, hey, look, if you drove here, a long distance, we want to make sure yours gets done in an earlier fashion than someone else's. And most people are very understanding, so, I don't do anything without kind of getting the sense of the permission of the room, so to speak. Does anyone have a problem with that? Let me know now. And we just kept it very organized, made sure everybody had, we gave them sheets to fill out, I think that said, like what strings you want. So we knew everything. So, and then I had, in most cases, I had somebody helping me. A lot of times it was Ralph, but somebody was helping me prep. So they would go, okay, so he would be, I'll use the Ralph one because that was a really popular one. He would ask the person, okay, what strings, what do you want? What do you, and he would do all the questions and make sure the sheet's right before it handed to me. So I could just talk to them and just do the restring event, if that's what you're talking about. And we handled that pretty fine. Some of them got crazier than others. We had one where I think we had 200 people, and then we had one where they had 50 people. Either way, I can tell you right now, anything other than 24 people, it was pretty hard to manage. It made for very long days. And we get asked sometimes to do them again. I just don't know. To be honest with you, I just don't know it's a thing anymore. When I did them years ago, this is obviously way before COVID. At the time, it felt like a great idea to go out there in the world and, meet the viewers and meet people. And I think it worked. Over time, I think people have become which is probably great. I think it's good news. People are very like casual about YouTubers now. That's how I feel. Like I don't get a whole lot of like, oh, you're on YouTube kind of things anymore. It's kind of like everybody's kind of familiar with me, and so the draw doesn't seem to have the draw it used to. I don't see people coming to things, but I could be wrong. What the hell? What do I know? But that's just some suggestions on how to do it. Phil Engel, this came from. Oops, where did this come from? Oh, it came from Amanda. Sorry, Amanda. That says, did you see the new Music Nomad guitar tracker app? No. Okay, so here's where it's easy. Somebody asked me a great question. Let me answer it, and it ties into your tracker app. So I have to go onto my phone and find it. It came in a question. It says, okay, let's see. Hold on a second. Where did I save this guy's question? I even said, I'll answer your question on the next show. Okay, so he says, the question was from Steve Walker, says, Phil, why don't you use headphones? Why don't you wear headphones? Why don't I wear headphones? I don't like headphones for a ton of reasons. One, the main reason I don't use headphones is because when I'm playing a recording, well, it's a little different now that I don't have kids in the house, but I get really into what I'm into to the point where I'm tuned out. And so people get right up on me, whether my kids or my wife, and like touch my shoulder, or they have to get my attention. I always jump out of my skin every time. In fact, it pretty much happens when I'm playing. I'm very focused at what I'm doing. Once I'm doing something, I'm super, super focused on it. And it's hard for me to kind of acknowledge anything around me. And so headphones make that situation worse. So I'm not a big fan of those. That's the main reason. Now, why does that tie into, why does that tie into Phil's question? I don't like apps either. So as soon as you guys say apps, I tried, and being on YouTube has made apps worse. I was never a big fan of apps, but here is my experience as a YouTuber with apps. I'm going to say 50% of the time, the company screws up the app, and it's a disaster. Apps, I think the problem in this industry is there's just not enough people, not enough tech, not enough customers, not enough anything to get apps working for most of the time. In fact, if I would have published all the videos I ever did working with companies with apps, you guys would hate me probably to this day. You'd be like, I downloaded that thing. It's a nightmare. It was a nightmare. The YouTuber part of it made it worse, where literally companies would come to you and go, hey, we have an app. Here's the product. They send you the product. They send you the app. By the way, I'm not the only YouTuber that thinks this. I've never talked to a YouTuber who has a different opinion than this. You get the app, it doesn't work. You tell the company, they say they're working out the bugs. I've had companies say, well, just launch the video anyways, and we'll have it all worked out by the time the viewers see it. And I'm like, hells no, right? So I'm not a big fan of apps. And even when they work, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of being around my phone any more than I absolutely have to. It's just not my thing. I make a living on a phone, and if you do that, it's like people who work all day on a computer terminal. The last thing they want to do sometimes is go home and work on the computer. Some people work on cars all day. They're mechanics. They don't want to go home and work on their cars. Some people are different. Some people like to come home, work on the car after they worked on cars all day. Some people want to sit in front of a computer after they sit at a computer all day at work. I am not that person. Whatever I've done all day, I kind of want to break from that. So my music time is really not about apps for me. So I'm not really into apps at all. And I used to do videos from here and there where I would a product would have an app, and I would say, like, oh, I'm not going to go through the app. And you figure that on your own. But I don't even kind of do that now. In fact, just recently I had two companies reach out, and I'd like to also point out the app companies tend to offer more money, but I just don't like apps. So headphones and apps are just not my thing. If you love headphones and apps, I'm actually jealous of you. It's not that I'm so much like I hate them. I just they don't work for me in my life experiences. So, Ben Coombs, what's up, Ben? Ben says, from the Ben Coombs channel, he says, why are Explorers so rare these days, Phil? I'm going to put that, now again, we're going to, we're going to just pontificate, why. I think it's because Gibson and Fender, like all large, smart corporations, learn that if you try to push items that are not your big ticket sellers, right? Strange colors, offerings, strange model offerings. You can try and push that on somebody all the time, and you're always going to be pushing marketing, because you got to understand, like think of it this way: there's a built-in joy in knowing that you don't have to really promote or market a Les Paul. Okay. I mean, think about that. Like, think about you guys. I want you to think about when you go in a music store, how many Les Pauls and how many Strats and Tellys are on the walls. And I mean, literally not Fenders, Squires, Epiphones, and Gibsons. I'm talking about all of the fakes and copies and all the, tributes and all the different brands. I mean, it's essentially, it's a, let's just say, I like to say it like a pickup truck. It's a pickup truck market. In other words, it's a built-in market. Everybody's looking for, Dodge does not make a different looking truck than Chevy than Ford. They're essentially function all the same. They have a bed behind a cab, that you put, stuff in it. It's a very accepted product by the community or the consumer. So the same thing with guitars like that. They don't have to promote them. They don't have to push very hard. It's built in, you just kind of make them. And then a new color is an exciting thing. And it's easy. Now, the other shapes, the other colors, so some of the strange colors, and then, of course, some of the strange shaped guitars, this takes promotion. This takes work. And the problem is the ROI, the return on investment and promotion. I've said this a million times, and people, sometimes people shun it on the channel. I don't really care. Marketing is the most expensive thing. It's the absolute most expensive thing. It's literally the thing. Think about this. When I talk to small businesses every single day, marketing is the reason they're failing. Every single time. Their marketing, like if I go, how much you spend on development, how much you spend on employees. If their marketing budget isn't one of their biggest expenses, then I'm like, well, right, that's why you're not selling a lot. You have to get this product in front of people, okay? Because the fact that let's just say there's a built-in audience for Strats and Tellys and Les Pauls, right? I mean, you got to get your guitar in front of people. So I think the strategy with Gibson and Fender has always been release limited runs of those things. And Disney does that the same thing. Think about it this way. It can't be coincidence that all companies have the same strategy. Take something that doesn't sell that well and release it in limited runs here and there. And the limited run gets excitement because the return on investment on the marketing is very easy to get, right? Because you pound out some marketing, you go, okay, we're going to make 1,000 units or 10,000 units. We're going to spend, 6 figures on marketing for a guitar company, and maybe half that because again, it's the guitar industry. Anyways, and put that out there, and then we'll sell through, and everything will be great. And if you don't, and I can understand why some people maybe don't think this opinion of mine is that maybe, some people are probably like, that sounds fine. Some people are against it. This is why I think left-handed guitars and all things are also same thing, always pushed to the side. It's just too hard. You're talking about an industry where the big players really don't have to work that hard in the marketing business. And they do market like crazy. Obviously, we know that, but they don't have to work as hard to market the mainstays. It's one of the best things. I mean, think about this. We're talking about Gibson, but let's just talk about Fender for a second. Their main product has not essentially changed since the 50s, right? I mean, at this point, if you don't know what a Strat is, there's probably not a whole lot of marketing that's going to be able to help you go, oh, hey, maybe if we finally, market to somebody, this way. I mean, people have kind of figured it out. So I think that's why Explorers, Firebirds, all of the, the V, all that stuff. It's why they do that. And also, that's also why the benefit to them is by limiting them, not only do they, decrease their costs, their overhead of the marketing, they also get to put a premium price on them and charge more. So, I don't know. That's my theory. It seems to apply many times over to many, many different companies. So it's interesting that way. Let's see. Wait, hold on. Hold on. This came from Super Lead 100 says, I thought the made in Korea PRS you first pulled out was really nice looking guitar. So obviously this is about the I bought a guitar collection. You know, that video, there was a lot of discussion in that video. When I made that video, it was originally 34 minutes long or 38 minutes long. And, you know, and then you edit. And sometimes I edit for flow purposes. I'm just trying to keep the thing moving along. You know, obviously you'll see where I'm like, I edited out the parts where I walk. Those guitars were in a different room. So I had to go to a different room and bring a guitar almost each time, you know, because everything was stacked up around me. And so, you know, there's these, you know, minute gaps in between, you know, guitars where I'm just walking back and forth. But some of the stuff I edited out was like the whole deal and how it worked out. And some people are curious about that. And what I find about that is some people are curious about it and some people are not curious about it. And so I figured that's what the podcast is for. If you guys want to talk about the, you know, why that worked out and why do I do those deals? If you notice, I do them quite often. I would say once a year I buy a collection of guitars. It seems to be that way. I used to do it much more, but I used to have a store at some point. So of course the store was doing it all the time. But I mean, I've just done this as a strategy. And it's just a way, I think the reason why I shared the video with you guys, and we'll go on, let's do this. Let's talk about that for a second. So if those of you who didn't see the video, I bought a bunch of guitars. And I've done a bunch of these videos where somebody has a guitar, and particularly in the guitar video, I was showing off this lime gold Setzer. As you can see, I might have a lime gold issue. I never intended in my ever to own 3 of them. The irony of this is, and then on a side note, the irony of this, when I went to G&L in, I think 2017, and I toured their factory and and I had them custom make me a guitar, which was just make me a G&L ASAT HH. I had them do it in the Margarita lime because I always wanted this color, like the Parker and the Gretsch. So like literally this was my like, oh, I'll get that. And that will scratch the itch of always wanting this lime gold, you know, color guitar. And then when I got the orange Parker, I was like, oh, what's cool? I mean, it's not as cool as the lime gold, but it's the orange one. It's really good. And then when my buddy was like, oh, I'll sell you the lime gold. I'm like, oh, now I got 2 lime gold guitars. Like, this is crazy. Okay, cool. And then when I saw the opportunity to buy the lime gold Setzer, I was like, okay, this is, now it's going to look like a problem of guitars. Okay, so here's how I want to explain this to you, because a lot of people had some interesting comments on that video. So essentially how it works every time, the videos are always the same because I always work the same. Somebody wants to sell a guitar or a bunch of guitars. And I want to be clear. It's not always like, hey, somebody goes, hey, I want to sell you 20 guitars. It's not that. Okay. Think about this. I see it all the time on Craigslist. I go on Craigslist and you can just all of a sudden notice like there's 10 guitars listed on Craigslist, but they all have the same backgrounds, the same front room or the same bedroom door, the pictures are similar, right? So you're like, oh, this is one person right, selling all this stuff. And sometimes it's easy, right? Sometimes it's as easy as, you know, they want $500 for your guitar and you're like, okay, that's a good price and I'll reach out and offer it. But sometimes when the market gets like it has been, where it's almost like the stock market, you know, right? Every day. What's your guitar worth? Who the hell knows, right? Things are just in flux at all times. And everybody, of course, has these strong opinions. The market's down, it's over, you know, you can buy things for nothing. And then people are like, I can't find anything for nothing. And both are right. The market has been extremely different, and it's been a lot different because of the fact that we have all these platforms to sell and everything gets different. You know, everything's just so many avenues to sell stuff, and then depends on what you have. But one of the things that I've learned over the years, and I use this perfect because this is a perfect story that happened to me. I found this heather pink Gibson Les Paul that I thought was just the coolest thing. This was a very expensive Les Paul. It was but it was like heather metallic pink. Okay, so think of it light metallic pink. And I just thought, oh, isn't that crazy? You never see that. I thought that was so fun. And the guy had it, and I go, you know, he's gonna sell it, and I bought it. And I thought, this is really cool. And the problem is I didn't love the neck. So the neck was kind of chunky, and over time, I just wasn't feeling the neck. And I would play the guitar because I just thought it looked cool, but it just didn't get on with the guitar itself. And it's one of those things like, I'm not taking this expensive guitar and sanding the neck down. It's not going to make sense to me. And I don't even know if I'd like it if I sanded the neck down. So what happened was I went to sell it, and it was a horrible experience trying to sell this heather pink metallic Les Paul. I mean, nobody wanted it, and anybody willing to take it was only willing to give me like nothing for it. It was just a very, like what we talked about earlier when I was talking about Ben Coombs and the Explorers. Like, it's just not a desirable guitar. It's a lot easier. Like, if you care about, getting rid of a guitar quickly, get yourself a Sunburst, anything, right? Get the traditional boring guitars. Everybody will buy them. But the odd guitars, they are typically cost more, and typically less people will buy them, so therefore you'll lose more. And I lost a good amount of money. I lost, I think, $1,000 on that guitar selling it. I just waited and waited, and I think it probably took me about 8 months. So 8 months, and I still lost $1,000. Just no one wanted this guitar, and so from that, I kind of learned one thing, which is, it should have been, don't buy really strange looking colored guitars or strange odd guitars. What I learned is, don't pay premium for them, because if you decide you don't like them down the road, you may come out ahead. Sometimes they become very desirable, but most of the time they're not. So to me, like, a Lime Gold Setzer is just a cool guitar. I always wanted one, but it's just, as you guys see, like, if you look at the comment section, it's a perfect example. Half the comment section said that guitar is awesome. Half of them said they made puke emoji faces. So you can imagine, if I go to sell this, that's exactly the market I'm in play with, right? Gretsch is known for being like, black or white or orange, right? Or maybe red. So anyway, so what I've kind of learned is, over the years, is that when people have eclectic guitars that I'm after and stuff, so in this particular case, he had the Gretsch. So when I was looking at his collection of guitars, I was like, okay, I kind of like the Gretsch, and I kind of like the idea of owning an EVH amp that head and 112. I thought that'd be fun. And so I shot him an offer for it. And he was like, yeah, I kind of will take that. He's thinking about it. And but he's like, but he said, but I'm going to sell all this other stuff. So maybe I'll see what the stores will give me. Maybe, he's going to figure out all these avenues. And I said it in the video, be a solution. So look, here's what's going to happen. Okay. People are going to cherry pick out his collection, and then he's going to be stuck with all the dead stuff. In other words, the stuff that's a little harder to move. And what you can do sometimes that's a lot smarter than lowballing something on an offer, or just paying premium, is saying, hey, look, what do you want for everything? Let me figure it out. Make your problem my problem, and I'll put in the work. I'll put in the sweat equity. Now, somebody pointed out in a comment in that video, yeah, you got to kind of have the money to do that. You do. You have to have the money to do that. I mean, now keep in mind, so I guess it's my brain. I kind of see solutions more than I see problems. When I used to not have the liquidity to do stuff like this, I used to do it on, not credit, I would do it on their credit. Like, let me sell the guitars for you. I'll sell them all for you, right? And then as I sell them, I'll pay you for them, right? And so I would just do it that way, and that's how I would do it. And let me give you an example of how it worked the last couple orders, not orders, but what do you call it? Deals. The last couple of deals, it works the same way. I make a little bit of money, which usually covers my time, and then the guitars I want, I didn't pay anything for them, right? That's the ideal deal, right? So imagine, let's say I pay $5,000. I'm just giving generic numbers. I pay $5,000 for his guitars. Let's say I sell it for, I don't know. Let's say I sell them for $6,000. Okay, so I make $1,000, but of course, keep in mind all the time I'm shipping, packaging, talking back and forth, the time it sits, with this gear versus your money. I made myself $1,000. So I make $1,000. I feel like I've gotten compensated for my time and efforts. And the guitar I wanted, I don't have anything into it. That's just the bonus guitar. And that's nice, because a lot of people have talked about this on the channel, like flipping guitars and stuff. Like, oh, did you get rid of it? I'm like, well, a lot of guitars I get rid of because they come for the channel, but a lot of the guitars I've had forever, I have no desire to sell them because I don't have anything into them. I've worked out kind of so many of these deals over time. And it's just a way of I guess it's because I didn't have anything when I started. So everything was like a trade deal. So like my first, and I'll get off this subject, but it's just an interesting thought. My first real bass amp, when as you know, I'm a bass player. My first real bass amp, how I got it was a guy put an ad in the paper. I think I've told this story, for a bass amp. And it was just so crazy, too good to be true. Right. And I'll remember two things about this. One, I had to go tell, my wife, like, hey, at the time she's my girlfriend, hey, I want to go buy this amp. And it's in Scottsdale, Arizona. And it was in a really nice neighborhood. They were like in a really nice house. So I just remember that. And so what happened was we drove and I bought the amp. I checked it out and I go, okay, he wanted $350. I said, would you take $300 for it? He's like, yep, I get $300 in the amp. And she's like, are you, I remember on the way home we're driving, she's like, are you happy about the amp? And I go, I don't even want this amp. This is just such a good deal. that I'm going to sit on it and wait. And what happened with that amp was, it was, I think it was 2 months later, I was at a band rehearsal and another guy in a band had a bass rig and he was like, yeah, I'm going to sell it. And I said, what do you want for it? And I think he said $1,000. And I said, I got this Ampeg head. I'll trade it straight for you. And we straight traded. So I got he said he wanted $1,000. I think his rig was worth $900. I mean, however you look at it, I got a $900 rig, which I couldn't justify spending no matter what, especially in those days. I didn't even have it, much less justify it. I got it for $300. And that's just how I would kind of, do things. And then, so you just kind of, you traded into your gear. You found scenarios where you could get the thing, upgrade kind of thing. So, I still kind of think like that maybe. So, let's see. Hold on a second. Mark says, I got more time than money too. What's funny is I've learned that, and this is just because I want to be very upfront with you guys. What I've learned is that it doesn't matter. I've talked about this before. It doesn't matter how much money I have or don't have. It's just the way I kind of got here. And this is the way I kind of still see things. There's nothing in me that says I make this much a year and I deserve this X dollar price guitar. Everything in me is, there's better things to do with my time and money. And if I'm going to do this is how I'm going to justify it. I'm going to justify it with, however, I come up with how to justify it. It's more of a guilt thing. It doesn't even matter. At this point, think of this, for almost 2 decades, I've been literally making a living in the guitar industry, and I still have trouble justifying guitar purchases of any kind. So, anyways, okay, let's see. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at, let's see. Just looking for any insights on that. I'm just curious. And then when I end the video, you guys let me know also in the comments, when I do videos like that, do you want more information or do you like just to share? Because I kind of feel like it's just about sharing the crazy cool guitars. By the way, this one's great. Gene says, one man's trash is another man's glary. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, so let's go to another subject since I don't see a whole lot of questions about that, and if I do, I'll come back to it. Let's see. The question was from Dale. Says, "Hey Phil, do you believe the claims of some retailers and channels that direct sales by Fender and Gibson is putting some mom and pops out of business?" It's not that I believe that it's putting them out of business. I believe that it's because they're going out of business. I believe that direct sales to consumers are a reactionary model. The reason I believe that is because if Gibson and Fender actually knew what they were doing, they would have done it a long time ago. Okay? Direct to consumer business models are extremely profitable. And wow. Now on that scale, it's a different animal. Okay. It's a hard thing. You have to have physical stores. I mean, look at Apple, right? Apple can sell direct to consumer and via the internet, via their stores, and still have to sell through Best Buy, Target, everywhere else, they need all these avenues because they're just so big. But in the guitar industry, the direct consumer business model, when it started rearing its ugly head in our industry, man, it took over and it took over fast. Here's the thing to understand, and this is what I kind of want you. I've talked about in the past. So let's just talk about this as a whole, and maybe you all be better informed for it. I've said this before. Gibson and Fender and all the people who are going direct, it is a reaction to decrease in sales in an area. Okay. It's not hey, we're going to get more sales. Okay. Fender and Gibson, as you guys know, and they're just picking on them because they're large corporations, they're not innovative. They're not on top of things. They're not really figuring things out. Fender does music lessons only about a decade after a billion people out there basically created lesson programs. I mean, Fender didn't really go, hey, here's an idea no one thought of. They're always reacting to the market. So what's happening is they're reacting to the lower amount of sales. And let me explain it to you from their point of view. And that's really what you really want to, and you'll understand why they do what they do. So you have these mom and pop stores, and they are the majority of the sales, okay? And that's the important part. That's still the case to this day. All the analytics I've seen in this industry doesn't really show that it's totally shifted yet. So you don't have Guitar Center and Sam Ash and Amazon, or not Sam Ash, I'm sorry, Sweetwater. So Guitar Center, Sweetwater, Amazon for the US, and of course Thomann for Europe, and then and all the other platforms. But in the US, those three entities, the Sweetwater, Guitar Center, and the Amazon, they are not outselling the entire mom and pop section of the industry yet. They are collectively doing it, but not individually, no individual. So here's my point. My point is that as the mom and pop sales decrease, two things happen. Okay, it's not just the decrease in sales. The cost to work with mom and pops goes up. Okay, here's what I mean by that. Shipping a semi truck full of guitars and amps and product to a store has a cost, but it's a lot cheaper than shipping 4 guitars at a time through FedEx UPS. In other words, think about this logistically. Fender has an outsourced in Ontario their shipping. So there's a giant warehouse. It's a fulfillment center for Fender. Fender doesn't even ship anymore to dealers because it was too expensive. By the time you have to pay, your warehouse workers, the warehouse space, all the overhead, and of course all these tickets that they're picking of small orders, right? Essentially, a lot of dealers are buying, essentially $2,000 orders or $4,000 orders. These are much smaller orders, and they're consistent orders. In other words, they're constantly small orders. So this gets expensive. It's expensive, more expensive to them to finance it. It's more expensive to them to ship it. It's more expensive to them to pick it and do it. And then on top of that, those orders are smaller. So that's why they're being picked like that. So, that's the benefit. So they're losing the I would call the mid-tier mom and pop stores, right? Which were the ones that could still, they're not Sweetwater, they're not Guitar Center, but they're still putting in a decent size order. Though a lot of those stores have disappeared to where now you have a smaller platform of stores. So the orders are much smaller. So if you were Fender Gibson and you were in a meeting, you would be freaking out. You'd be like, okay, wait a minute. Okay, we're losing this market, and what's left of it is costing more to sell to it. And not only ship, let's talk about this. Mom and pop stores, let's just put it out so you guys understand all the numbers. It's not only more expensive to ship smaller orders to them and finance them, it's also more expensive to collect on them because now you have to have a collection department like Fender has to have customer service collections in Arizona calling stores like, hey, your account's past due. Are we going to get that payment? And we want to release another order to you so you can pay your payment. We'll release the order to you. That's another expense. By the way, you have to pay not only your sales reps, but your per diem to drive. They have to go to these mom and pop stores. Okay, it's not like you're sending one rep and flying them into. Well, by the way, there's a Fender rep and Gibson rep at Sweetwater physically on the campus. Right? That's how much business they're doing. So you have to send these reps out, and these reps have to get the stores to reorder and push on them to reorder. And so those expenses go up. But the biggest problem is not the expense. The biggest problem is the lack of orders. So as the orders dry up, they came with the idea like, we'll go direct to kind of cinch that up. I think that the online direct business model for Fender and Gibson isn't to put mom and pop businesses out of business. It's to be ready for it's to be ready for how the mom and pop businesses keep shrinking. And they keep shrinking. This month, which is March, is what? Today's the 28th? 3 music stores announced closing that I saw in this country this month. 3 decent sized stores have all put out like, hey, we're closing. So stores are closing, and so, where's Fender and Gibson going to get that market share? And also keep in mind the fear of having all your market share in one location. Do you really want Sweetwater and Guitar Center to be, 80% of your business? I mean, that's very scary, so I think that's why they're doing it that way. But I'm sure the mom and pops looking at it logically saying, hey, they're competing against us and therefore they're hurting us. It's not, unfortunately, they're right. It is hurting them and it is competing against them, but it's not because of them. It's because of the other mom and pops that are not performing and going out of business that this is happening. So that's why that's happening. It's going to continue to get worse. And then add in the fact that online direct-to-consumer sales is very profitable when you figure it out. The one thing I will tell you is there's, you guys, if you're hanging out here, there's 1,000 of you, whatever, 1,100 of you hanging out Friday. Let's just assume you watch a lot of gear channels, okay, or YouTube channels, and you see them all doing the same thing. Hey, click my affiliate link down to Sweetwater. Click my affiliate link down to Reverb. Click my affiliate link down to Guitar Center or whatever. And I've said this before with those affiliate links. I know in my case, I know something that maybe the others YouTubers don't know it. I don't know. My store, which was a mid-tier store, right, did mid-volume business, it would do 7 figures a year gross. Now, don't get carried away. 7 figures is gross, and it's not like millions. It's like I broke $1 million every year, like 1 point something million in gross revenue for the store every year, which is a lot of money. Now, net, not very much, but gross, as you hear it all the time, you hear that the music industry is a low margin business, like a lot of low margin businesses. So you sell a lot of gross to get your margin. My YouTube affiliate link does what my store does every year. Not even trying. And it's been that way for 10 years. Now, I make less off my affiliate link than I did owning a store, but also I didn't have to physically be in that store. But my point to you guys is, if you think I think there's 500 gear channels. If there's 500 gear channels and each one is selling affiliate links in the dollars of mid-tier music stores, which is what I said 10 years ago, by the way, that this was going to be a problem. You can't, it's too easy. You're watching a video and the link is right there and you click. And, and there it is. A sale moved from a physical store over to an online entity. And COVID was crazy. Now, keep in mind, I've never done the numbers that I did in COVID. Those numbers were nuts. And those were 5 times normal numbers. Now I'm back to normal numbers. If you look at my March numbers affiliates, I would say it's identical, maybe up maybe 5-10% from March of 2019. But I'm 4 or 5 times less than I was 2021, March of 2021. So, I mean, it's a different world. I would say, and that's why I say, if you're a mom and pop, and when we call mom and pop, we just mean small business. If you're a small business, you have a store, look, focus on the things that they can't do. Like I said, be the answer to your customer's problem. Do that used gear that, it's nice to touch used gear and put it in your hand. If Fender and Gibson, they don't need you. So you don't need them. That's just how it works. In fact, here's the best advice, and we'll end this section of it with this to all the small businesses out there. You don't need anybody who doesn't need you. I promise you, right? And it doesn't feel intuitive to think that way, but it's absolutely true. If they don't need you, then you don't need them. And so you just find your way. Customer service, you're going to have to do things, repair. You're going to have to do setups. You're going to have to change strings. You're going to have to be polite. A lot of mom and pop stores that went out of business. I mean, look, when they were the only deal in town, that's where I went. Their personality, I didn't miss. There's a lot of stores that unfortunately have closed that I missed that the store's gone, but the people there weren't that enjoyable to interact with. So I think of this. I was talking to some friends. This is funny. This is a true story. I was talking to some friends literally a week ago, and I was counting and talking about, for reference, how many times I have been scolded in a music store by an employee. And then I was trying to relate to how many times I've been scolded at Target. Sir, please don't touch the blender. Sir, please. Hey, are you going to buy that roll of toilet paper or just look at it? Right? Like literally, I have hundreds of stories in music stores of being scolded, reprimanded as a customer for not being the right customer. And you wonder why a lot of them didn't make it. And so I'm just saying, I'm not saying you have to be fluffy and nice. I'm just saying, maybe don't be an asshole. That's probably not going to go over well anymore, where it used to go over well. It used to be fine. You used to go into stores and the guy was curmudgeony and you were like, I don't know, this is where the cool stuff was and you got it. But now your cool stuff's on your phone. So I think, like I said, I don't think all mom and pops will close. I think it's just they'll keep shrinking until the best ones are left and the best ones will stay. Let's jump to another topic. This one came from Amanda. It says Ed says, Phil, I thought you had a Mesa Boogie Mark V amp. I do. He says, but I have not seen you use it for quite some time. Do you no longer have it? What model is it? It's a Mesa Boogie Mark V 25. So that's what it is. And then I have a Mesa Boogie Rectoverb 25. You guys don't see my amps because I don't do any footage in the amp area anymore. That's just how that worked. That's it. I still have an insane amount of amps that I don't really want. I've sold a bunch. I got some more to get rid of. But yeah, I have amps. Just here's the irony of this. My world is partially the things I love. And then right now, let me just put it this way. In this room that I'm sitting right now in my office, this is my personal, and I love my Amplified Nation amp. This is my amp. They've sent amps in the past, but this was specifically an amp I wanted. And this amp is because I love it. This is an amp that specifically has nothing to do with, I have never even made a video of this amp. I will do a video of this amp, but obviously I'm just waiting for I'll do it today. I've got to get in the mood for it, but I'll do the video. That's an amp I love. I have a Fender Princeton right here because this is an amp I love and I play it. Okay. In front of me, next to me, I have my Engel Steve Morris amp. I have a Marshall 2061 little head, and then I have a Morgan PR12. That's what I have, these three amps right here. So this is what amps are in this room. These are the amps I use. Those amps are on the regular. I use those pretty much every day in some way, right? Then there's amps I use for videos, and then there's amps I just have because, like a lot of us, I got it, I like it, I'm not using it, but I'm not getting rid of it yet because I still like it. But anyways, my point is that's why you don't see all the amps. I don't put all the amps in the videos anymore. I don't put all the pedals in the videos. If you notice now, if most people haven't even caught onto it, I'm actually purposely not showing you any guitars in the deep dive videos. If you look at almost every deep dive video, there's no guitar other than the guitar that's in that video. Not a single one, except for at the end. I should take that back because I still film the end in here, but I've been actually moving that away too. And then in the play part, I'm only showing the two amps that I'm using. And, no particular reason. I just like the flow of that, better. I've been very upfront about this over the years. This background that you see behind me for the podcast is for the podcast. This is for your enjoyment. I literally, if I did not make videos, I would not have a wall of guitars behind me. It's not something that I would put them sideways in racks. And then you guys would go, what's that? And so I hang them, and I think it's nice wall art. It looks great. And if I could think of a better background for a podcast, a guitar podcast, trust me, some days I think, well, why don't I just put a giant Know Your Gear podcast sign behind me? And I'm like, they probably won't like that. They probably like seeing the guitars. So that's why it's there. This is the guitars. So, Richard says, where's the synergy? The synergy is in the playroom. So we have different rooms because it just for function. As I've told you guys, I redid everything for flow purposes so I can make content. This week in particular had almost no time to make content, but I still got a video out this week. If you guys notice, without a doubt, 5 months ago, if I would have had this week, there would have been no video of the week. But the fact is I'm not missing a week anymore. And sometimes I'm doing multiple videos in a week because the flow is much easier to knock out a video in a day or 2 days. Because it doesn't take much for something to go wrong in your week. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, this video gets hold up. So, okay, let's see. Brian says it's a green screen anyway. Yeah, you know what? I think about doing that. That'd be a good idea. Okay. All right. Let's do another one. Jeremy wants to know, are the Fender Champion amplifiers any good? I've played a few, and there's the Champion 2s now, right? There was the Champions, and then I had Frontman before. I was thinking about buying a Champion 2 so I've talked about this with the patrons. I just haven't pulled the trigger on what to do yet. In the playroom, the room I do the playthrough of the deep dives, in there is the Synergy amp, which makes it easy for me because it's got basically 4 channels, so I can just, and it's all mic'd up to one cab, so it's like I can just, knock out the sound portion. But I like the idea that when I'm doing guitars that are $200, $300, $400, maybe not run them through a $1,500 head. And so we were thinking about putting a more economical amp on the other side of me. Right now there's a Fender 65 Deluxe, and that's what I was thinking about doing, was a Champion. So I was like, do I do a Catalyst? Do I do the Champion? I don't know. It's just suggestions. If anyone wants to make a suggestion of what they think I should put there, I'm open to the suggestions. So, that's it. It's just simple. Just you try to figure out what to pick. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, let's do this question. Clan of Housecat says, hey, is owning a Kaizen going well? Yeah, I've had it for a while. I like it. Obviously, I did the very first review of a Kaizen. I reviewed the very first prototype, as you guys know, or maybe watch the podcast know, and I've been wanting one ever since, and so I got that one, and I've had it. Again, we've talked about this, I think I never thought about it until probably in the last couple months, more and more. But I think a lot of people, when I get these questions, I've noticed more and more the questions are like, hey, I don't see this, or do you still have that? And I'm like, oh, I guess, like I said, should I rotate more stuff? Rotate so you can see the rotation. I'm like, to me, it's like, I don't know. But yes, the Kaizen is a great guitar. I love it. It was like I always wanted a pointy kind of BC Ritchie kind of guitar, and it was kind of there, and it's a 7-string, and it's cool, and I love the color, and so yeah, love it. I'm not a huge fan of the pickups, but there's no way to really swap them because they did their own weird, goofy spec, size, and shape pickups. But I've learned to deal with it. It's not so much that they're bad; it's just they're not to my taste. But overall, the guitar sounds and plays good. Okay, next. Okay. Brian says, yep, changing from stock 9.5 to compound 9.5 to 12-inch radius fretboard. Okay, so he has a 9.5-inch fretboard. He switched to a 9.5 to 12 compound radius. Okay, so for those that don't know what we're talking about, it means it's rounded. The fretboard's kind of rounded, and as it goes up to the 12th fret, it's going to get flatter and flatter until eventually it's 12 inches, which is like a Gibson Les Paul. So it's going to flow from a Fender Strat vibe to a Les Paul vibe as it goes up. He says, it's on a telly, and now I have some strings laying on the frets higher up on the neck. Okay. Is this due to a flatter radius? Is it fixable? It's not due to the flatter radius. The flatter radius would have made the strings not as close to the fretboard. My guess is, first of all, there's a couple things. Your neck might not be compressed tightly enough in your pocket, so it might be lifted up a little bit. Or if you didn't use a caliper and check, your neck might be thicker. The actual neck block might be thicker than the old one, so it's higher up, and of course, it's adjusted. So, or just and if that's not the case, it could be as simple as, swapping the necks. This one just has a different amount of tension on it, and so therefore it's got some backbone, and it's pulling the strings in and more down. But either way, the easy fix is, well, first make sure your neck is installed as tight as possible. That's a pretty easy one. It doesn't really matter if it's thicker than the other one. It's more of just if you known, you would have adjusted. The only thing you have to make sure is there's no gap in your neck. Okay, just make sure there's no gap. That's pretty easy to do. And then can you loosen the strings a little bit and tighten the screws a little bit, and just make sure there's no gap in there. And if you feel there's no gap in there when you're looking right now, you'll visibly be able to see something. And because sometimes I was going to tell you, sometimes what happens, because there's always like pieces of wood chips and stuff around. Sometimes a couple of wood chips, when you take the neck off, you don't realize like something gets there and it goes, and then the neck it doesn't get as flat as it needs against the body. But if you confirm that, you're just going to raise your saddles. That's all. And then you can radius your saddles however you wish. You can radius them to the 9.5, or you can radius them to the 12. That's up to you. It's a preference. I've done it both ways. Somebody asked me, how do you radius it to a compound radius neck? There's a correct way. I'm sure if you Google it, it comes up. But over the years, I just had customers tell me what they wanted. And me personally, I just radius everything to I radius the bridge as round as I can for feel. I have a weird thing about high E's. Just if they feel higher than the rest of the strings, that just feels weird to me when I touch it. So I just like to have it as low as possible. So I tend to round my radius a little bit, me personally, and it's fine. Like I said, if it's playing fine and it's working fine, everybody has their own preference. But most customers would probably ask you to radius it to a 12-inch radius. But either way, raise the saddles and just make sure you use radius gauge. You'll be fine. Dennis says, hey, I love the podcast. Thank you for saying that. He says, yeah, you and Shauna get out those e-bikes and go get some ice cream. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's basically, yesterday was 90-something degrees. Today it was a little cooler. But today, I'm doing dad stuff. Today was dad stuff. I'm my daughter is a daughter, right? So basically what happened was we were like, hey, you need to have your brakes checked. And then some time went by and she didn't do it. And we're like, hey, you need to get your brakes checked. And she didn't do it. And so we went and checked and we're like, okay, now you get your brakes checked because we don't want her rotors to get damaged, right? So she has to go to work. She has no time to get her brake checks. We're like, we'll go do it. But her car was filthy. I have a philosophy that I've found that works for me, and I use it. I've used it my whole life, which is never take a car to any kind of repair. I don't even care what it is, not an oil change, anything, unless it's spotless. The reason being, I'm just telling you guys, hey, I'm dad day. So here's some dad advice. Here's the best dad advice I can give you when it comes to this. And you know what? Use it for everything, not just your car. Never let anyone touch something of yours, whether they're fixing it, repairing it, cleaning it, adjusting it, whatever, that gives the impression you don't care about it. That's just my personal opinion, right? That's just the way I like to do things. So if I bring a car in for service, I want them to think that I take a really good care of my car so that they will take really good care of my car. And I also find it makes life easy if there's a problem later when you go to pick it up. You don't want them to go, hey, what's with this, spilt coffee on my seat? And they're like, it's like the other 10 cups you spilt on your seats. Who cares? Right? So that's just the way I think of things. So we had to clean my daughter's car today, and it was pretty horrible. It's pretty bad. I'm laughing because I'm almost having PTSD over it. It was that bad. You know what? To be 20 and busy, I guess. Again, I guess that's what it looks like when she's very busy. So, all right. And see, there you go. Maybe that helps. I don't know. Let's do another one real quick. This one came from Amanda too. This is from Sydney. Sydney Allen says, hey, finally got enough credit to finance a guitar for $800. What should I go with? Thinking about a Fender Strat. Well, I'm not a big fan of financing anything. So I'm like, so I always, look, I'm conflicted. I'm always conflicted. Okay. So let me just tell you. First, I really don't like telling anyone what to do with their life in any way. And then I break that rule with the next thing I say, right? But I'm just saying, look, whatever you want to do. But I will tell you that before, I just feel like I got to give this advice. Look, Fender Strat's a great guitar. And I know for a fact you can get a really nice Fender Strat for less than $800. And if you have the opportunity to maybe get one for $400 and not have to finance it, that's always an idea. But hey, if you have to finance it, what should you go with? Especially financing, because you're going to be paying more for the guitar. Even if you get zero interest, maybe, things go awry. So I would look for a really good deal. That's what I would do, to offset anything else. That's my thoughts. But, I always think it's just because it's a gear channel, and I can tell, and I know my community well enough to know that most of them are going to agree with most of this, which is nothing wrong with financing and do whatever you want. Like I said, it's, everybody should live the life that the way they think they should live it, right? But the cool thing about a channel like this is the discussions, which I think you learn is there's definitely so many deals out there that you can find a way to get a deal and not have to, finance. It's not the only option, but it's, I would say, but a Fender branded instrument is probably one of the best purchases you can make when it comes to a forever guitar, a lifetime guitar, a guitar that you'll stick with long enough to get, to make it make sense. That's the way to do it. So that's what I would consider. That's, just a thought. I mean, like I said, I'm not when American Music Supply, I used to do their, they used to have, instead of financing, they had rent to own basically, because it was not rent to own, but you would buy it under no financing and then they let you make payments. I remember that was great. Getting in a lot of trouble with that. Okay, a regular star says, hey Phil, what are your experiences about lifetime warranties when it comes to guitars, basses, and equipment like cables and amps? Have you ever seen one honored or is it just a gimmick? I have seen both scenarios. I've seen them being honored and I've seen them weasel out of them. I've seen way more weasel out of them than honor them. One of my favorite things that, hey, it's a store story. Hey, cool. I'll tell you my first experience as a retailer with warranties. And so here's how it works. So you guys know, I started my store 2004, and I said, okay, I got to, get some product to put in the store, right? Got to have a music store. You got to have some musical equipment. And so the first brand I went to was called U.S. Music, which was at the time was Randall, Eden, Parker, Washburn, which is why I became a Parker dealer. And so I reached out to them and said, hey, I would like to carry your brands. I see you have no representation in the state of Arizona. I'd like to carry your brands. They said, sure, we'll send a rep out. They sent them to my house, and the rep the rep shows up, and we discuss everything. And I say, this is the date I want to open, and this is what I want to carry. And so I was like, they were great because U.S. Music at the time was like a one-stop shop for me. It was like, okay, Washburn had acoustics, so we have acoustic guitars in the store. Good. And then Washburn had electrics, so like electric guitars. But then we had some Parkers, which were kind of premium, because they had the import Parkers in the U.S. one, so we'll have some premium brands, right? That's cool. And then Eden, we have some bass amps. They had, at that time, they had the Nemesis line, which is affordable bass amps. So we have affordable bass amps. We have the more expensive bass amps. And then we have Randall, right? And so Randall amps. So I was like, oh, cool, Randall. And, so I'm like, all right, cool. So we put in the order, we order the stuff and get the stuff. And I was so excited because I thought, I'm so smart. I'm so smart. That's what I thought. I go, I'm picking all these brands because I literally went to every music store in town. I go, what don't they carry? Where's the holes in their armor? Right? And they're like, oh, they don't carry Randall. Like everybody was carrying Crate. I'm like, Crate? What about Randall? Randall's cool. So I get Randall and I get Parker and Washburn stuff. And the store was like 2 weeks old. And a customer comes in and says, hey, you're a Randall dealer. I looked online and you're a Randall dealer. I go, I am. I'm so excited. You got to understand, like this is a big deal for me, okay? This was like, I'm so smart. I picked a brand no one had, and now look at this customer walking in my store that didn't exist 2 weeks ago, looking for a product. I'm going to sell him a Randall. Life is great. I'm so smart. And he goes, yeah, I have a Randall in my car, and it's defective. And I'm like, oh. He's like, yeah, it's got a 5-year warranty, and I've had it for, 4 years. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, yeah, it's not turning on. And I'm like, oh, now here's my opportunity, guys. I'm like, okay, because I remember I look at life through solutions, not problems. I'm like, okay, not going to sell an amp today, but I'm going to work. I'm going to make this customer happy. He's going to be a customer for life. He's going to buy 18 Washburns and Parkers from me. Life is going to be good. We go out to his car, we get his amp. I go, I will take care of this. Let me get on the phone. I get on the phone. I get my Randall rep, and I go, hey, I have a Randall warranty issue. And he goes, okay, no problem. You call this person in-house. I call the in-house person. They get me on the phone. I said, hey, my name is Phil McKnight. I have a store. I'm one of your new dealers in Arizona. I said, I have a customer. He has a warranty issue with a Randall. It's a 5-year warranty. I'm looking here at the receipt. He bought it 3.5 years ago. It's not turning on. Do you want them to send it to you? We'll send it to you. Or do you want us to send, do you have a service center? How do we handle this? Okay, now you get to have the fun part, you guys, and you get to guess how. I wish I had a drop-down menu of like, he gave me one of these 3 answers, right? And here's the answer he gave me. So since I don't have that option, I'll just give you the answer. He says, oh, yeah, no, we bought Randall, but we didn't buy any of their warranty interests. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, we bought Randall 2 years ago, so we own Randall now? And I'm like, uh-huh. But when we bought Randall, we didn't buy any of their warranty interests, so we're not responsible to warranty any of those amps. We didn't buy their interests. We didn't. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Right? And he goes, yeah. He goes, when we buy the company, we didn't buy, like, how you buy the company dictates whether or not you're responsible for the warranty. We didn't do it that way. We just, we bought the name and stuff. We didn't buy their amps and interest and stuff. I'm like, but it's under warranty. And he's like, yeah, it's not under warranty. I go, well, where's the company? He's like, the company went bankrupt. We bought the company. I'm like, right. So we're going to warranty this for him? He goes, no, we didn't buy the warranty interest. Now, I'd like to tell you this goes on for a little while. It does. Until I give up, because that's essentially what happens, right? They wear you out with their stupidity. And then you're like, look, there's only some point where I can only talk to this moron any longer. But I've definitely concluded that I'm not going to be able to warranty this new customer's amp. And so I remember looking at the customer's face, and I just could not say that stupid thing out loud. I was like, I just can't. I just came from a corporate. At the time I was still working for a corporation. I'm like, I work at a corporation. I have to say stupid corporate stuff all the time. So I said, okay, we'll warranty it. And then I had to find, I think, I say I want to be very clear. Then my wife had to find some amp repair center in town, and we sent the amp and had it fixed. We never told him. That's a mistake. So, the mistake I learned in business from that, you learn all your businesses and you're in business, you learn your mistakes and you move on. The mistake I made was I should have proudly said, they're not warranting it. They're dumb. I'm sorry. I'm going to warranty it because I'm a dealer for them and I'm going to take care of you. And I hope that, and I'll make sure you're okay. Instead, what happened was, this is what happened. Instead, I sent it to a repair shop to fix it. I paid for it out of pocket. Don't remember what it cost. Doesn't matter. I just remember them taking a couple weeks longer than they said, and that guy coming lighting me up for it. So I remember handing him his amp that I paid whatever I paid, maybe it was $100 or $120, whatever, to fix it. And I remember paying for this amp, and I remember he never came back to my store again because he hated me. He was like, oh, you took forever to fix it. I'm like, oh, yeah, no. So I learned a lesson. So we all learned a lesson. So to answer your question about warranties, they're exactly what you think. My experiences, so in the store, I use that as a reference because obviously, like I said, I talked about the volume that we would do in the store. Ibanez would almost never take care of us as a warranty. They were horrible. To this day, the curse is, of course, Ibanez is my favorite brand. Like as guitars, I just like them because I was a kid. I always liked Ibanez, and I own a lot of Ibanez's. But my wife she was the business, side of it. So, paperwork side. So to her, it's just all the annoying Ibanez, never taking care of customer problems she had. And that was because Ibanez had a third party handling their stuff for a long time. And then they were a problem, and then they got rid of them. And then Ibanez was a problem. Epiphone was horrible. I remember when we were a Gibson Epiphone dealer, I remember I sold a customer an Epiphone, and I remember the guy had it for like a month and a half, and the neck twisted. And we called warranty at Epiphone, and they told us they weren't going to take care of it. So I remember that. Fender was always the best. So now that could change. That could be not the case anymore. But I'm going to tell you, in the back in the day, we would give Fender more and more business each year because of the fact that Fender would rarely say no to us for problems. So for any issues. So if a customer had an issue, we could always get it resolved in some way. To the point where we would fix issues for other dealers. Like, literally a customer would come in with a problem from a Fender they bought at a Guitar Center. And we were like, well, we'll take care of it because we just call Fender. They'll take care of it. So they were really good at stuff. So when it comes to warranties, I would say what it says isn't what I would take in. I would, the company's integrity, how they work, who they work with. And it's not hard to figure this out. I remember when I was talking to older dealers, they would tell me PV was like the best ever, and then they told me PV was horrible. So, I mean, everything changes throughout time, but when it comes to warranties and stuff, the warranties is as good as the paper it's printed on, and who's going to take care of it. And then that's one of the best things about retailers is that sometimes you can get the retailer to take care of it. Me personally, the more expensive something is, the more I like the idea that I can get the owner on the phone. So it's just something I've learned doing reviews in YouTube, is that watching feedback from you guys. Like, I do a video of a product and then you guys buy lots of it because we're all obviously gear freaks. And then I watch reactions and problems over time because you guys always send me stuff. You guys say, hey, I got this and here's the problem. And what I've kind of learned is the more you can get the owner on the phone, the less you'll have an overall problem. For the most part. Now, of course, we're again, there's exceptions to that rule, but I find that to be pretty good. Usually, I think that's just a life thing. Usually, the higher up you can get somebody in the company to listen to your problem, the more likely you're going to get resolved, because higher up people don't want to spend time talking to you about your problem. They want, they got other stuff to do. So, just my thought. All right, you know what that means.
Now it's time for Guitar of the Week.
That's like, I feeded back. That was crazy. Let's do that again.
Now it's time for Guitar of the Week.
That time with no feedback. I don't know if you guys heard the feedback. It's because my monitors were loud. So Guitar of the Week isn't going to be super excited. I wanted to share a story with you. You guys watched the video this week was I bought a guitar collection. I thought, let's go over one of the guitars in the guitar collection. Because this one was a unique piece. And I'm kind of thought about it, like they don't make it anymore. So if you guys remember in the collection, there was this guitar. So this guitar is a Paul Reed Smith SE, world manufacturing. So it's made in Korea. Okay. And this one is Carina. And if I recall, they're like 5 blocks. So I'm going to tell you a story, but I don't know if it's true. So I'm just going to, it's a rumor I heard. Okay. But I'll tell you where I got the rumor and why I have it. So there's one piece of Carina here, one piece here. I think that's it. 3. So 3 pieces. There might be 4. So I remember this guitar when it came out. There was they came out and they were Carina, and they were like 3 or 4 pieces of Carina body, and then the neck is a 3-piece. This is a 3-piece Carina neck. So it's not one piece. You can actually see here, even in here on this with this camera, you can see the lines, the center right here. You can see that's a piece in the center. And when these came out, I remember the rep telling us a story. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's true, but he told us the rep told us the story. So he told us that PRS Guitars was sending World Manufacturing in Korea. So the American PRS factory was sending scraps of Carina wood, because it's so expensive, from their US guitars to the Korean factory, and had them made these out of the scraps. So these were made out of the scraps of the US guitars. Now, here's what's troublesome. Sales reps tend to have stories. So it can be totally made up. But what's great about having a podcast now with some views is maybe somebody knows, like, if that's true. So sometimes the PRS employees watch. Hell, sometimes the COO of PRS watches the show sometimes. So maybe they, if you know if that's true, send me a message and I'll confirm it to everybody next week. But I remember this was interesting because this was a hot seller. I remember we sold a lot. I remember they were really popular because they're super light. This one's like 5-6 pounds. It's like nothing. They're like air, and they sound really good and they played really good. And then they just stopped making them, and they really haven't made them since. I mean, you think about it, you don't see a whole lot of Carina SE guitars. It's not as common. They made a different version of this one. What I loved about this one is, if you're familiar with like the Gibsons, that the specials, Les Paul specials that are thinner like this one has a little bit of a carve to the top, but with the amber knobs, looks great. It's got the 1-piece wraparound bridge, and it's fantastic. And then this neck isn't quite wide thin or wide fat. It feels like something in the middle. It doesn't feel chunky at all, and it doesn't feel thin. I just remember thinking it was really, really nice guitar. And so when I was buying the collection, I saw this. I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember those." And I remember thinking, like, I wonder what it's worth. So I was looking them up online. I'm like, "Oh, everybody's asking about 5." On the high was 6, and the really smoking deals were like 4, right? So I was like, oh, "Okay, 4 on the low, 6 is the high." So $500 guitar. I was like, "Wow, $500 for this with the gig bag." I was like, "That's pretty cool." I thought it'd be worth more. I don't know why I thought they were $600-700, but very cool. I figured let's play it. Let's switch cameras. Let me move my seat. So I'm playing today through the Morgan PR12, and I'll start clean with the side cam. You can hear me here with the side cam. Whee, here it is. You can see on this camera, it's a little bit more yellow, I guess. Oh, yellow-orange. I'm on the neck pickup. Let's play a little clean. Don't worry, I'll turn on the guitar. And that's your neck pickup. So very full sounding. Okay, I'm gonna add a blues driver pedal, Marshall blues driver. We'll go to the neck. No, we'll stay on the neck and I'll go to the bridge. Here we go. And you know what I'll do is I'll tilt that a little bit so you can see that. Okay. That note was bad. Okay, this is the bridge. And then we'll go to the middle. What's funny about this is, when they talk about the tone woods, Karina is supposed to have like a more of a mid-rangey bite to it. And, it was one of those things back in the day. Look, no matter what you think about tone wood now, you know what you thought 20 years ago. You just believed it. Again, I'm not saying, you guys have heard my opinions on tone wood. What I'm saying is that 20 years ago, people just said things and you were just like, oh yeah. And you're like, mahogany, it's warm sounding. Like ash, it's going to be bright. And you're like, yeah. And so Karina was like, oh, it's mid-range. You're like, oh, is that how you get a mid-range? You get a Karina guitar. And so it was just kind of how it was. But I just remember it was a really cool, different guitar. It is crazy light though. It feels hollow. How weird it is. One thing I didn't check. Let me switch cameras again. A little closer. I'm gonna see now if it's top heavy. No. I mean, keep in mind. Think about this. I have the clip-on tuner on the headstock too. It's not top heavy at all. I didn't think to check, but no. If anything, it kind of wants to fall back if I'm not holding it because it's like a Les Paul. But no, it's like legit. So, wouldn't it be funny? Watch. What? No, I'm just kidding. I just love doing that for a second. I'm like, it's not top heavy at all if you hold it. No. So yeah. So like I said, it's a thinner type body. I think the newer single cut PRS SEs are thicker now, like a proper thickness, like they are the core. But this was the thinner one. But like I said, not flat top. It's arched at the back, and then it has a belly carve. I thought it was really cool. Yeah, just really cool. It's one of those things Like when I talked about like, whoa, this guitar I'm keeping, this guitar I'm gonna get rid of. That's one of the ones I'm afraid of this guitar because I'm like, if I keep this guitar, I just want to put new pickups in it. Does this sound great? But that, or maybe I just put covers on it. I don't know. It's so cool. Just really cool. Brian says, I like the moons. Yeah, this is back when they didn't even do the birds on the PRS SEs. Back then, when this came out, they only did moons on the PRS SEs. And then, I forget his name, but it wasn't even a PRS. I remember Schecter came out with a guitar that had bats. Like I think it was like the Omen or something like that. Had bats on the fretboard. I remember people were like that. That was cool. I don't remember. You'd have to Google it when PRS started putting the birds on the SEs. But this was the moons. So, and then for those that don't know, because some of you may be confused when I say moons, let's switch this. If you're not, if you look, you see the dots here, you'll see there's a moon in each dot, right? You guys see it? So if you're looking, it looks like the dot is a light, almost clear, and then there's a mother of pearl moon in each one. So these are called moons. So they're all like, I guess that's quarter moons. I don't know if it's a half moon, but it's moons. So, and then again, hard to see in certain angles, but then you can see it again. So if you're familiar with PRS, they don't, well, I don't know about now, but back then they didn't do dots. They did birds or moons, but moons look like dots. So there are little moons in the dots. And a lot of people prefer them. A lot of people hate the fact that they went to birds on everything. So there, yeah. And the moon pie, for those that don't know, those are moon pie dots. So that's Guitar of the Week. I figured I'd show the guitars from the collection as Guitar of the Week. It's another way to get through, have some guitars to show and stuff. And then, as they sell, I'll go away. It's probably a good time to mention. I do put them on the Reverb Store, but keep in mind, if you buy them from my website, which is the Blackstock website, you don't pay sales tax and you don't pay shipping. The logic being, it's not much cheaper for me if you buy it on my website. I obviously still have to pay credit card processing, but I don't pay, seller's fees. But if you're doing the math, what seller's fees cost me is not much different than what shipping would cost me. So giving up the shipping, I'm essentially just giving you the fees, and then you're not paying the sales tax. I just figured it was worth offering it both ways for those that are interested. So it's on both. I put links to both for other stuff. And a lot of people ask about a lot of the gear and that thing. You got to understand, I have right now probably 30 guitars, 25 to 30 guitars that we're going to eventually have to sell, through that we accumulate. Anyone who watches any YouTube channel knows, we do hundreds of videos, and over time we're always purging gear out. It's just, for all the reasons I've talked about in the past. Alex says, link to Phil's site, please. Sure, it's in the description down below. It's the Blackstock site, but I will, I'll make sure to post it when I timestamp. And like I said, you can go to the Reverb Store. It's up to you. So I really don't care either way, but I'm just wanting you to know, if you do it from the Blackstock site, you don't pay sales tax and you don't pay shipping. Okay. Anything else? Any questions about the guitar? This came from Ed. Says, hey, Phil, how do you keep the guitar from sliding off your lap if you're disabled and in a wheelchair? Well, it's problematic if you have a little tummy. Got the gut like me, it pushes the guitar off your lap. That's really a pain in the ass. So I don't really have a trick for keeping the guitars off. I can tell you that if it is so problematic, one thing you can do is put a piece of rubber grip. You don't want to use the decking grip like from a skateboard, but you can use like a rubber grip. And I'm pretty sure they have it's like a shoe rubber grip. Let's try this. Let's see what I come up. And they sell like a double stick pad. Here it is. Shoe rubber sole sheet. I'm pretty sure. Hold on. I'm looking at this. Yeah. So there's a ton of ways to do it. I'm showing you something I found right here. So you know what I'm looking at. This is a shoe rubber sole sheet. It goes in the bottom of your shoes. A lot of times they have some adhesive. You don't have to stick this on your guitar. You can put a piece of painter's tape over your guitar and then stick this on the painter's tape if you don't want to damage your guitar. But I would say something like that. Those of us who remember the old Ovations, had had to put a little grip thing to stop it from sliding off. Yeah, there's also these here Kiwi Sure Step non-skid pads like this. These are the shape of your feet, but you get the idea. Something like that. Something like that works. I find me personally, jeans work for me. I wear jeans, and videos where I wear jeans, the guitar sticks to the jeans. When I wear my slacks, I guess is that what you call these cargo pants. I'm wearing cargo pants. Cargo pants, the guitar slides constantly. It's just sliding away from you. But that might be a way to kind of help. There also you might be able to, a non-marring modification. In other words, if you're, one thing you might be able to do is take a sock, like a clean sock, of course. Take a sock and fill it full, I've seen them full of chickpeas and stuff, and you put something like that and you throw it in front of the guitar and it stops it like a bumper. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do like that. So just give you some ideas. I don't know. But good question. And if I come up with a better idea or see a better idea, I'll share it. Most likely if I see a better idea. We have okay, hold on a second. Hold on, guys. I got a bunch of questions that came in. All right. This one came from Vimps69. Hey, Vimps. It says for ad-free live shows. Oh, well, thank you, man. You don't have to do that. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Thank you. But appreciate it as always. That's the start. I'll just say thank you. How about that? Sunbase says, for no ads live and thoughts of the new Tobias basses. Oh, I saw something about the new Tobias basses. I have not looked at them, so I'll have to look further at them. I'm a huge Tobias bass fan. Tobias basses were that's the bass I wanted as much as a Warwick. So to me, it was like Warwick and Tobias. It was like those are the two. And by the time I got to the point where I could buy a Warwick or a Tobias, I bought Warwick because Tobias had kind of disappeared by then. Tobias was this thing. I would always walk into certain guitar centers and there would always be one Tobias hanging on the wall, and they let you play it. So you'd pick it up and play it and go, woo, it's amazing. I don't have this kind of money. Guess I'll go back to my sound gear, because I played an Ibanez sound gear forever. And the funny thing about basses is it's just like guitars. I find that I played an Ibanez sound gear forever, and then I went to a Fender jazz bass, and then Fender jazz and sound gear basses. And then I got all these boutique basses like everybody else. You get to a point you're like, I'm gonna get these expensive ones, and I go, I don't know, are they better? I don't know. It's like all the high-end guitars. Are they better? I don't know. So sometimes, look, I like this journey. I like learning about guitars. I like doing all this stuff. I have the addiction, but sometimes I kind of go. Sometimes the guitar is more about just like, this is the representation of how hard I work, more so than it's really a good guitar or not. So I don't know. Scott, thank you. He said just because. A Scent of a Wheelchair Pillow says kick some partiers out of an Airbnb this morning. Nice. Along with their lady of the night, they left behind a rolled up $100 bill. Wanted to share the wealth. Thank you, I appreciate that. I got a dad joke for that. Okay, let's see if I can remember. It was good. It was I was in the parking lot, and this woman came up to me and said, I'm in a, woman, okay, I got the joke. Ready? Woman walks up to me in a parking lot holding her kid and saying, do you have any money you can give me for gas? I'm totally broke. I lost $300. And I just need some money to get some gas to get home. And I thought, you know what? I definitely got to give her something. So I gave her $50. It's the least I could do because I found $300 earlier today. So anyways, that's the joke. Thank you, Scent of a Wheelchair Pillow. Man, see, I need to look at it to say it. Scent of a Wheelchair Pillow. Thank you. Ross did, hey, where are you on your journey to find the perfect Les Paul single cut? I have my perfect Les Paul single cut. It's my gold top one. I got the RO. It's great. It's light. It plays amazing. It sounds amazing. And I like the gold top. Somebody asked me earlier about the throwback pickups. So you guys don't know, the main audience doesn't know, but I installed throwback pickups. So John at Throwback sent me a set of pickups and was really, really nice. And I did an install video and threw it up on Patreon, and I go, okay. And I haven't released the video of the review of the throwback pickups, and here's why. I really feel like when you're talking about an $800 set of pickups, I just can't be like, they're amazing and you need to get one too. There has to be where am I at with it? It's just, again, I kind of take like reviews like that extra seriously. Like, everything that's super expensive, it's how do you justify it? You almost can't. So I'm not going to try to justify it, but at least got to explain to you, articulate what it is I find good about them. They are really clear and they're really clean. So what happened is, as you guys know, I have a gold top classic that I bought from Carter's Vintage Guitars. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite Les Paul. Love the neck, but I did not love the pickups. And so it came with 57 Classic, which I loved those pickups, but for some reason the guitar was just too dark. It was too muddy. I put some Pro Buckers in it because I had them. And they were same thing. The guitar was just really dark and muddy. I talked to John at Throwback. As you guys know, I was going to throw a set of Northern Lights, but the Northern Lights, to me, they bump the mids, and this guitar's got a lot of nasal mids. So I was like, I don't want to do that. And so when I talked to John, I said, hey, I have this guitar I love. And as John's a fan of the podcast, he knew. And I said, why? I have a problem. And he said, hey, maybe it's just the bridge is so bright and extreme to the neck, it feels muddy. So he sent me a set of throwback pickups that are really balanced out. I put them in, and I almost kind of miss the original neck pickup not being so bassy now because it's a lot clearer. But the bridge sounds so clear, and blended they sound great. So I'm loving the guitar, in other words. But I just want to be very clear. I would love that guitar, I think, no matter what pickups are in it. I just like the guitar. The pickups were not a huge deal breaker for me, but I like the throwbacks a lot. And I guess the answer I can give right now is yes, if you buy a $800 set of pickups, throwbacks, you will like them. Will you feel like they were worth $800? I don't know. I didn't pay $800 for them. They sent them to me. That's what I told you. That's one thing about reviews that suck. It's like when I buy something, I can tell you like, man, I don't know if I do it again. I will tell you, I think the real answer is, would I buy a set now that I've tried them? And I think I might, but I'm really trying to reconcile that price tag, as you can imagine. If you watch the podcast with you, look, I think he clearly demonstrates why they're expensive to make. And I think if you're the kind of person that buys that stuff, I think he's definitely explained it to a point where I think you're going to be rational and fine with it. But it's still a little bit of a Lamborghini talk to me. In other words, it's still a little like I love him and I love his company, and I think he's doing the right thing, and the pickups are quality. And it's not about whether or not they're worth $800. It's whether or not I can find something as close as good as that for $300-$400, and I think I can. So it's about just wanting the pickup, but they're very good. It's really tough. It's a really tough thing. I don't know. My biggest fear is I was going to get them and not like them. But that wasn't the case. I really like them. But anyways, back to single cut. My single cut. I really like my gold top. I really like the Heritage. Yeah, the Heritage behind me. I really like the Heritage. This neck's just a little chunky. I like my single. I like a lot of single cuts. I got a lot of great single cuts. But I think the gold top's still my favorite right now because it's one I play the most. Okay. Wisconsin Jet says, I'm still trying to get my head around him covering the Randall. He means me covering he's talking about covering the cost of repairing the Randall when the actual company that bought them would not. Look, I could say it was good business at the time. And this is where it's nice to have, be a little older and reflect and, lived a little since 2004, right? 20 years has gone by since that incident happened. I will tell you this, maybe you could give me credit because that I was like just being a good person. maybe I was a good business person going, hey, take care of a customer is really smart. I told you the mistake, as I should have told the customer I was taking care of it. But looking back, the question is, would I do it again? I would absolutely do it again. I would definitely tell the customer this, Dan. But I'll tell you that the biggest motivation, which is interesting that you don't realize at the time, is I was embarrassed. One of the things that happens, it's just the human nature of things. One of the things that happens when you make a good decision, when you do something, I'm so smart. I'm so talented. I did this, right? I feel like, look, I picked this brand. I have this. This was the good decision. And then when I heard that, I was in shock, of like, this is crazy. And I tell you right now, I think it was part of me wanting to be a good business. Obviously went over customer. Part of me is just, I'm by nature, I'm like, but part of it was I was embarrassed. I just didn't want to say it. That's so stupid. And I was embarrassed. That's part of it too. I'm just telling you. But I don't know. Like I said, you live and you learn. And I don't regret. Not from that. Okay. So what do we have? Okay, we have another question. It comes from Ross. It says, hey, where are you at on your... Oh, yeah, we already did your question. Steve says, new Engel Ironball SE. My question is, for home use, to utilize the IR balanced out on the back, do you just plug in an XLR cable out of that into my interface and power soak to speaker off? Yes, that's it. That was the easiest $10 ever made. That's exactly what you do. So yes, you just plug an XLR out into whatever interface you have, and you can leave the amp on or off. It doesn't matter. But if you attenuate it to speaker off, you'll just be hearing it out of whatever you're listening through for your interface. Is how you do it. Hold on a second, and let me pull this one up. It would help. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to read this stuff. Okay, go here. Okay. Okay, so we have the next question. What do we have? The next question is from Richard. Richard says, hey, I received one of the new Heritage Ascent H137 P90s made out of China guitars. Wow, incredible guitar. So if you guys don't know, Heritage has a line of an inexpensive made in China guitars. And they have a deal where if you buy one, you can then trade it up later to a USA made one. You have to go through. So if you guys aren't familiar with Heritage guitars, besides the fact that they're Heritage guitars is owned by a company that owns them, Harmony Guitars, Mono Gig Bags, and this retailer. We can find the article. I probably have it saved. Let's see. Okay, hold on a second. It would help if I go here. And so I can give you the name of the retailer. And then I'll keep the comment section out in case you guys come up with it just as fast as me. Okay. Nope. Where is it at? And you know what I'll do is I'll find it and timestamp it. But they have a retailer that you have to buy it from, which I think is pretty easy because it's the exclusive. In fact, let's just look up Heritage Ascent guitars. Let's try that. I think that's what they're called, right? Nope. Standard collection. The gear page. Let's try this. Heritage guitar, standard collection. Nope. Does anyone have the store? Let's just look. I'm going to go back. Anyone put in the comments too, that they sell them from. So like I said, you have to buy these heritage guitars from this one particular retailer. But when you do that, you can trade them up for a USA one later, which is their kind of their big marketing push. So let's do this. Let's try this. Okay. I don't see it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see it. Does anyone see the dealer? Okay. So anyways, I'll timestamp, I'll find the dealer because I remember reading the article about it because they did a whole article about this. So Heritage is obviously getting into the import line. It's interesting. It's pretty cool. I mean, to me, I don't look at it any different than like how G&L has an import line. It's good to have feedback that you liked it. They're between the $200 and $500 price range, if I recall, right? So the one you got is probably closer to the $500 range. So Parker says, hey, Phil, what's your opinion on the Tone King Gremlin? I've never tried the Tone King Gremlin. I had a Tone King Imperial. I really, really liked it. In fact, I liked it to the point where I almost thought about getting rid of my 65 Deluxe because it's just got kind of that same vibe. But I've kind of, like I said, it kind of settled into what amps I'm playing now. But I've heard nothing but good things about the Gremlin from my buddies who've tried it. Christopher says, hello, Phil. I have the new 2024 Gibson Explorer, and I was trying to replace the Mini Grovers with key-type Kluson tuners. My tech said he can't do it because they need spacer and said it's a downgrade. I'm not familiar with that. So I don't know. I don't know why it'd be a downgrade, but I don't know. Look, I probably never even worked on those tuners, those style tuners. My Explorer has the typical Grover 18-1 minis. It doesn't have the ones. My Kaizen has those type of tuners. I've probably worked on one or two of those guitars, and I've never had anybody have me replace them, so I'm just not familiar with them. It's just not something that came into my purview, so I'm not really familiar. But hopefully somebody in the comment section will have some feedback for you. I really would curious what you don't like about the current ones, because the ones I've tried, I like those tuners. Lock Sustainer says, hey Phil, love the show. Could you please mention again your favorite bass strings? Would like to try something different. So it's not so much my favorite bass strings, but the bass strings I use the DR stainless steels 40 to 100s. I'll use those a lot for the slap bass stuff. I use the D'Addario tape wounds, which are the black plastic looking ones. They're like a cloth. I'll use those, and that's pretty much it. I was gonna say I kind of was using a couple of different brands, but that's really kind of what I've kind of done. Even on my 30-inch scale bass, I was doing 45 to 105s, but I'm back now to 40 to 100s again. I just kind of like touch, small strings, short scale, makes it easy for me. Toxic Treasure says, how about Know Your Gear auction hour every week? Yeah, it's funny was, we pitched an idea, me and a couple YouTubers, we pitched an idea of doing that, like almost like a QVC online, a lot, because we have the live ability, right? So you do live. Like, could you imagine if like Sweetwater or company like that did a live show and it was like, here's the deal for the next 10 minutes. Oh, one more left. Oh, 0. Okay, let's go to the next product. And it'd be kind of fun. And a great way to do that. I always thought it'd be kind of fun to do that, I guess. But the problem is the back end for me. It's not the doing it on the show. It's I got to ship everything and I got to make sure it gets all out and stuff. Destro, I'm gonna say Destructo with a Z. Destructo says, I've seen this name before, so I don't know why I'm having trouble with it now. It says, hey Phil, I don't know if you're big into multi-tools, but if you had to recommend one guitar roadie work, what would you use? So multi-tools, obviously, funny. For me personally, I like Leathermans and Swiss Army knives, but that's not for guitar tools. For guitar tools, I don't really have a multi-tool guitar tool. I'm looking at my drawer right now. Like I have the Ibanez one and I have a Kiesel one. These kind of good tool things. I find myself rarely using them, if that makes any sense. They're kind of nice, like I said, so I guess that's a recommendation. Gibson has one. There's, like I said, there's a ton of them. I just find myself, like, if you're not just looking for something that fits into the gig bag, I'd rather just have a couple of the right tools. But from multi-tools, none of them stick out. I used to have I think it was called Gatool, right? It was a multi-tool called Gatool. But then every company, like I said, like Ibanez, Kiesel, Gibson, all made a version of it. And so I just have their versions laying around, and they work out pretty good. I like, for screwdriver sets, I still use my StewMac. Oh, it's worn off. It said StewMac on it before, but this is a StewMac screwdriver set. This is what I use. I have one of these everywhere. They're super expensive, but if you get them on sale, you can sometimes justify it. But I keep one in my shop, one here, and then one. Actually, just the two places now. I used to have 3 spots for them, but now I just have the 2. So those work great too. DJB says, hey, Phil, any thoughts on buying a guitar off Reverb, but an in-person pickup only? The seller has never sold anything before, 0 history. I have bought stuff off Reverb and met with people. So, not a huge deal. I bought my CE24 semi-hollow, what they call it, reclaimed. I bought that off Reverb and met the guy and picked it up probably in 2016. And that was fine, So as long as you do it in a safe place. He happened to actually be a lawyer, and I went to his law office. I don't know if he's a lawyer. He worked in a law office because I went to a law office. Maybe he was a criminal. No, I'm just kidding. But it'd be kind of funny, right? He's like, yeah, I met with lawyers. Come here. But, so, I mean, if you can find a safe place to meet somebody, I don't see the problem with it. 0 history and stuff. I mean, it's tough. Think about this. It's problematic for both sides because I think he has to have you do something so it shows that he delivered. Otherwise, he has no proof he gave you the product. So you have to, because I don't think I've sold anything and then had to meet somebody, but I have, like I said, I've bought and met somebody, and I know I have to put something in there that lets Reverb know to release its funds, because otherwise, how they get their funds released is they ship it to you. So when you pick it up, you have to say, yeah, I picked it up. So I think there's a little bit of it, like it's built in to protect you a little bit, as long as you don't get mugged or killed. So Red Eye Bloom says, hey, new bass day. I made the jump to the 5-string Cort Artisan C5 Deluxe. It's just me, or the strings on new guitars always dirty. Yeah, they're horrible. It says, these ones are D'Addario EXL 170. First of all, I like Cort, as you know. I like Cort Tech, the company, so I know that a lot of people are there. And so, I'm not saying anything about them that I wouldn't say about every company, period. I kind of feel like nobody is giving you the strings they claim. I don't know what it is. I've never received strings in the condition that I've received the strings from a guitar that's apparently new, right? And I mean this, like, think about this. I've received guitars where it says, like, it was built 3 weeks ago, and then apparently it's okay, so it was restrung, put in a box, shipped to me, and now the strings are crusty. Like, I just feel like they use either the wrong strings, or they're using copy strings, or they don't store them properly because they buy them in bulk. I don't know what it is. It's very rare that I keep the original strings on a guitar. I try to, because it's why waste the money if you don't have to. But I kind of feel like when I get a guitar, I always feel like I just don't trust it. I just don't trust it. So I wish there was a way to know for sure, but I just don't know. I'm not only think of this. I was told once, like in this industry, I was told not only are they use fake strings, but a lot of companies, and again, I don't think Cort would be this, but they're definitely the smaller brands, unknown brands. They use fake hang tags. So like, so not only can they be using a real hang tag that says, equipped with D'Addario or Elixir, and then putting the wrong strings, some of them can just be putting those fake tags on there now. So it's like, I don't know. So, all right. On that note, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you guys had some fun. Guitar talk and a little bit of YouTube talk at the end. As always, I want to thank you guys for your time, and I'll see you guys next Friday. And as always, know your gear.
The Know Your Gear podcast. Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.